So we are still on tossing of a coin. So we are now going to look at, we have looked at tossing a coin once and then tossing a coin twice or 2 times. So we are looking at tossing a coin thrice or 3 times. All right, you can say thrice or 3 times, or tossing 3 coins at the same time. Okay, so when you toss a coin 3 times, or it's the same as when you pick 3 coins and you toss it at the same time, the possible outcomes are the same. So one, we are going to look at the possible outcomes. Okay, and for the possible outcome, to make it easier for us to deal with the possible outcomes, then we are going to do it in a tabular form. All right, where we combine the one, because we say tossing the coin 3 times. Okay, so we will combine tossing the coin once and then tossing the coin 2 times, so that it will be 3. And when we put it in a tabular form, I think that will be easier for us, okay, for us to be able to write all the possible outcomes. So so take here as the one head and what? Head and tail. Okay, so this is the one side, and then head. All right, head tail, and then tail head. And then we have what? Tail. Okay, so so this side is when the coin is tossed once, that you get the head tail, and this is when the coin is tossed twice, you get head tail, tail head, and tail. So when you combine the 2 and the 1, you get the 3. So here can give us head, another head and head. All right, or we get what? Head tail, or head tail head, or head tail. So we pick and combine with this one. We have tail head, we have tail head tail, we have tail head, and finally tail. So this is what we can have for our possible outcomes. Okay, so we can write our possible outcome in a set form like this. Okay, we can have head. All right, head tail. We can have head tail head. We can have head tail. We can have tail head. We can also have what? Tail head tail. And we can have tail head. And we can have tail. Okay, so this will be our possible outcomes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8. So the number of possible outcomes is equal to 8. So our number of possible outcomes is equal to 8. So when we are dealing with tossing 3 coins once, or when you toss 1 coin 3 times, okay, then we have the number of possible outcomes to be what? To be 8. So you realize that with the first tossing a coin once, we had the possible outcome to be, the number of possible outcome to be 2. Tossing a coin twice, the number of possible outcome to be 4. And tossing a coin 3 times, the number of possible outcome to be 8. So you are seeing it's following a certain pattern. So sometimes in objective question, they can ask you, a coin is tossed 20 times, find the number of possible outcomes. So if you want to find the number of, okay, so we say that to find the number of possible outcomes when a coin is tossed a number of times is 2 exponent n, where n is the number of times the queen is tossed or is being tossed. So look here and take note of this. All right. Okay. So what we are saying here, to find the number of possible outcomes when a coin is tossed a number of times is 2 exponent n, where n is the number of times the coin is tossed. So we, from our previous lesson, we know that when a coin is tossed once, what will be the, now we said the number of possible outcomes is what? Is 2. So the n is the number of times the coin is tossed. Once we had 2. When the coin is tossed 2 times, 2 exponent 2 give us 4. When we did this, when the coin is tossed 3 times, we had what? The possible outcome to be what? 8. 2 exponent. So if the coin is tossed once, the number of possible outcome will be 2. A coin is tossed 2 times, the number of possible outcome will be 4. When the coin is tossed 3 times, the number of possible outcome will be 8. If the coin is tossed 8, let's say 5 times, the number of possible outcome will be what? Will be 32. 5 exponent, 2 exponent 5. If it is tossed 4 times, it will be 16. Okay, it is tossed 6 times, I think that one will be 64. Alright, and so on, and so on. Okay, so take note of this. And we are going to use the knowledge of this when the coin is tossed, okay, 3 times to solve some questions right now. So make sure when you if you can't put this in your head, make sure that you be familiar with how the table is being done. So that when you get a question, you look at how the table is being done, and then quickly you are gone. You get all your possible outcomes, and then the number of possible will be 8, and then you solve a question on that. All right. So we are going to solve a question on this. Okay. So let's look at the question. A fair coin is tossed thrice. Let's solve the possible outcomes. Use your outcome to find the probability of obtaining at least a head, at most 2 tails, 2 heads, and a tail, not more than 1 head. Okay. So let's list the possible outcomes. Okay, so with your possible outcomes, if you think you will forget, then you can do your table. So when you do your table, it becomes what? So simple for you. Or if you know, you can also write, then that is fine. If you can write, then have head, head, head. Either all the 3 will be head. Or we have head, 2 heads, a tail. Or we can have head first, tail second, and then head tail. Or we can have head first, tail, and then tail. Or we can have tail first, head, and head. Or we can have what? Tail first, head second, tail, tail, head. Or we can have tail, tail, and head. Or we can have tail, tail, and tail. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are the possible outcomes. All are head, 2 first 2 head, tail, head, tail in the middle, head, tail, tail. Tail first, head comes, tail, tail, head in the middle, tail 2, head, and then tail, tail, tail. Okay. So now, after doing that, you have to make sure you write the number of possible outcomes, which we know is going to be 8. Okay, so our number of possible outcomes is 8. Now, therefore, we can answer all the questions since we have gotten our number of possible outcomes. All right. And as we said, when you are not even asked to list in the question, make sure you list them all. Okay, so the first one, use your outcome to find the probability of obtaining at least a head. So we are going to look at least a head. At least a head, to mean that 1 head or more. So there are how many? We told the coin 3 times. So either 1 head, 2 heads, or 3 heads in the outcomes that we have there. So at least a head. Here we have 3 heads, so this qualifies to be part of it. There are 2 heads here, so we still have at least a head. 2 heads, so we still have at least a head. A head is here. So there is still at least a head. There is still 2 heads here. So we still have what? At least a head. And then we have a head here. So there is still at least a head. Then there is still also a head here. So when you look at the at least a head, it is only the tail that we don't have any head. At least a head means one head or more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 all give us at least a head. Therefore, number of at least a head is going to be 7. So probability of at least a head is going to be 7 out of 8. So 7 over 8. That is probability of at least a head. 7 over 8. Okay, we cannot further simplify. So let's continue. At most 2 tails. At most 2 tails. So we look at most. At most, we are going to list the event that it is at most 2 tails. So at most 2 means that at the maximum 2. So 2 or less. At most means that figure or less, or that value or less. At least means that value or more. So at most 2 tails means 2 tails or less. So it can be 2 tails, 1 tail, or even none of the tail. Make sure you add none to it when you ask about at most. So let's check here. At most 2 tails. Do I have 2 tails here? No, this is none. So this can be part of it. Head, head, head. Alright, so we said that either 2 tails or there is no tail at all. At most 2. So there is 1 tail here. Head, head, tail. There is 2 tails here. Okay, so head. Sorry, there is 1 tail here. Tail, head. There is 2 tails here, so it still qualify. Head, tail, tail. We still have 2 tails. There is a tail here. Tail, head, head. There is even a tail here. Tail, head, tail. There is a tail here. Tail, tail, tail. 2 tails. And then 3, no. Because whereas of at most, at the maximum, it should be 2 tails or 3 tails are not packed. So either 2 tails or less. So 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, none. So they all qualify. So therefore, number of at most 2 tails is going to be 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So probability of at most 2 tails ought to be the probability. That is 7 out of 8. 7 out of 8. Okay, so our last 2 will be 2 hairs and a tail. Okay, so we look at 2 hairs. See, 2 hairs and a tail. 2 hairs. Where do we see 2 hairs and a tail? This is 3 hairs, so 2 hairs and a tail. That is head, head, tail. 2 hairs, a tail. Head, tail, head. 2 hairs, tail. So this called head, tail, tail. So 1 head, 2 tails, no. Tail, head, head. 2 hairs and a tail, yes. Tail, head, head. So this also qualifies because there are 2 hairs here and a tail. Tail, tail, head. No, this is 2 hairs, 2 tails and a head. So this does not. Tail, tail, head. This is 2 tails and a head. Tail, tail, tail. No. So we have this 3 as our 2 hairs and a tail. 2 hairs and a tail. So number of 2 hairs and a tail 3. Therefore, probability of 2 hairs and a tail is going to be 3 out of 8. Alright, so let's proceed to the last one. Not more than 1 head. B. Not more than 1 head. Not. It shouldn't be more than. It shouldn't be more than 1 head. So either it is 1 head or below. So that here is also the same. At most 1 head. Not more than. Not more than. So either there is 1 head or no head at all. It shouldn't be more than 1 head. Okay, so head is not part, not more than one head. This is more than one head, more than one head, more than one head. Okay, so we have head, tail, tail. It is not more than one head. So this one, this is more than tail, head, head. This is not part, it is more than one head. So we can have tail, head, tail. This is also not more than one head. And then we can have tail, tail, head. Okay, this is also not more than one head. And then tail, 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 not more than one head. There is no even head here. So what we need is that it shouldn't be more than one head. So anywhere we see more than one head, it is not included. This, I think 1, 2, 3, and 4, they are not included. So here we have one head, and none of the hairs. So all that we need is that we don't need more than one head. So one head, and if there is none to be considered, because there is also no head here. So this is like at most a head. All right. Therefore, number of not more than one head. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4. 4. Okay, cool. We have probability of not more than one head is going to be what? 4 out of 8, and that will give me 1/2. Probability of not more than one head is 1/2. It's 1/2. I believe this is understood. All right, so we'll meet again as we solve what's the question on tossing a coin 3 times. Make sure to subscribe and like. Bye bye.